So a few weeks ago, an aspiring comedian by the name of Luis Gomez Jr. was on the Joe Rogan show talking about various things, but one of the things that he was talking about was a story called, it's now been coined, 3-day acid trip. And, well, I'm going to call bullshit on this story. And I'm going to call bullshit for the reasons I'm about to point out. You may ask, why does it bother me? Normally it wouldn't, except that in his story, he used elements of mine experience that he embellished to, embellish his own bullshit story. So I kind of feel like I'm obligated to at this point. And we're having a little exchange, but I'll get into that later. So for those of you that don't know what's going on, I'm just going to go right into why I think this story is bullshit. First off, if you've ever bought or sold acid, you would know and call bullshit on the story right away, because this is not how you buy and sell acid. In his story, he says that some hippie guy gave him a modest medicine bottle. I'm not even sure what a medicine bottle is. It sounds big to me. Of liquid acid, Tim and his friend. And then they each took some. And we're supposed to give it back to him, right? And then the guy was going to count how many hits they did or whatever. I guess he's just going to eyeball it with his psychic powers and determine how many hits they took, right? Well, first off, if you've ever sold acid, I mean, I've bought and sold acid for the last 30 years. Never once have I seen anybody buy and sell acid like this. You don't bring an entire vial, medicine bottle, of acid to a show or whatever it is to sell. It's stupid for various reasons. First off, if you got caught with a medicine bottle full of acid, medicine bottle, however big that is, right? Is that a cough syrup bottle? What is a medicine bottle? Whatever. It doesn't matter because it's a bullshit story anyway. You don't want to get caught with that. Two, that's a number one reason why I would think of. Also, you could lose it. You could spill it. You could drop it. We're talking something of upwards of $500 worth of acid, right? Are you just going to hand a giant vial of acid over to two guys and be like, go ahead, you take some and your friend takes some. I'll go ahead and you can take some again, and then give it back to me, and I'm going to eyeball it and determine how much you owe me. That's not how you sell drugs. It'd be like somebody walking in who sells cocaine with a kilo of cocaine being like, here you go. Why don't you do some cocaine? Your friend too. Oh, you want a little more? Do some more. Okay, now give it back to me and we're going to eyeball it and I'm going to figure out how much you owe me. Ridiculous. That's ludicrous. That's not how you sell drugs. And acid, if you sell acid, you put the acid on something, usually tabs, right? So you can count them, 1 tab, 2 tab, 3 tab, pieces of candy, right? Whatever, right? So you can actually quantify how much you sold, right? It's easy. It makes sense. And you don't have to carry around $500 to $1,000 worth of fucking acid, begging to get caught, right? That right there is the first element of the story. That's complete and utter bullshit, right? It's unfathomable that any drug dealer would do that. So I can understand why Gomez might think that the majority of the listeners who listen to this story aren't going to make that conclusion because they don't buy and sell drugs, because probably the majority of people who listen to it don't buy and sell drugs. So I can kind of see why, people may overlook that, but I'm here to tell you that's not how you sell drugs, especially acid, something that you can't really count. You can't really weigh acid to determine how much these guys just took either. So I don't even know how this guy was supposed to figure out how much to charge them. If it was $3 a hit, okay, was he going to sit there and count how many drops they put in their mouth? No, that's impractical. So the whole idea that somebody would hand over this much acid to two guys and then have them expect that they would even give it back, right? Because a lot of people would just say, well, thanks, and walk off with $500 to $1,000 of acid. You'd be lucky to get it back. What happened if the guys dropped it on accident, right? What happened if they were dumb and they took too much? There's all kinds of bad scenarios why you wouldn't carry around that much acid. So right then and there, I don't know a single drug dealer who's ever done that. I've never seen that happen in 30 years of buying and selling acid. And I probably never will, nor will you, because it doesn't happen that way. So for the people who believe this story, either A, have never bought and sold drugs, B, are completely gullible and naive and lack any critical thinking skills, C, are just like totally gay for this Gomez guy. If the answer is C, if that's why you believe this unbelievable story, then because you're gay for this guy, well, I'll let you slide on that one, because who's not gay for short, bald, skinny Puerto Rican parrots? That's just like a given, right? That's like gay black midget wrestling, right? Mud wrestling. It's like, doesn't everybody like that shit, right? This guy. So anyway, yeah, that's the number one reason. Second reason is he got on Joe Rogan with the intention of telling this story, right? Well, how come then when Joe Rogan, the first question that Joe asks is like, what was that like? Basically saying, what was that like taking that much acid? What was that like? And Luis Gomez Jr. was like, I can't remember. He stuttered, paused, stuttered, and then says, I can't remember. Like, this guy was getting up on Joe Rogan, one of the most well-known podcasts, right? And to pitch this story, which it is, the story, and he can't remember what this experience was like. He doesn't have a response to it. Kind of weird, kind of unprepared, but you know, I mean, that's just kind of weak sauce on his part to just not even be prepared to even have a bullshit fucking description of it. And then he tries later on to give some sort of description of it, but the description is mainly about like his friend and a donut shop and this and that. It didn't really have much to do with the subjective sensations of being that high and that much acid. He farted out a couple things like something called, I think it's called synesthesia. I can't even pronounce it now. Synesthesia, something like that. Synesthesia. It's basically when you like smell sounds or like you can hear colors. It's like when your senses get crossed with each other. He says something about like that, like I could smell the chair, or he said something like that, which is like so cliche. Like if you watch any big LSD documentary on YouTube, it basically will touch upon that. Like that's a well-known, I don't know why, because I've never experienced it, but it's well-known, repeated, alleged description of being high on acid, is that your senses get crossed and you can see sounds and smell colors and shit like that. So that you can look up on, I'll put a couple links in the description of some, the first couple of documentaries I looked at on YouTube, I found it right away. So he's throwing these random descriptions out there after he says he can't remember what it was like. And they're just cliche shit that he found off of the internet, right? Off of YouTube. That, and he couldn't remember what it was like. That, and he pinched elements of my experience, the 30 hits of acid, probably the most well-known trip report on YouTube, to embellish his fucking bullshit story. I mean, with the hippie and the eyedropper, the duration of the trip, all that came directly from my video. Now, I know a lot of you will say, oh, it's just a similarity, it's coincidental. Well, it could be, because I don't by any means think I'm the only one that's taking acid from a hippie, and nor do I think that I'm the only one that's taken an excessive amount of acid on accident by any means. I'm sure it's happened, I'm sure it's happened to others too, but it's not happened to this guy. This guy, I doubt, has even bought acid. If he has, I mean, I don't know why he'd be that stupid to think the people listening would be that stupid to actually believe that some fucking guy is just going to hand over a giant medicine bottle full of liquid acid and expect him and his friend to take it, to be able to quantify it, and then give them an amount of what they owe. I mean, it just doesn't make any fucking sense. I'm calling bullshit on the story, and anybody that's bought and sold acid would call bullshit on it too. Like I said, unless you've never bought or sold acid, don't have any critical thinking skills, or really gay for this guy, or just a fucking retard and believe everything you hear on the internet, it should be pretty obvious this guy's full of shit, especially when he can't even when he's put on the spot to describe what it's like and he stutters and he says, I don't remember. It's like, well, then why the fuck did you bring the story up in the first place? It's bullshit. I stand by it. It's bullshit.
Me and my buddy Dan Doherty, we got a medicine dropper, this fucking hippie kid, this county, which is right outside of New York City. We used to drive up to Albany because there was a guy that would get it up there, and we would fucking pick it up when he had it. And he had it like twice a year. But this kid was like, dude, I have liquid acid in an eyedropper. We're like, oh no way, dude, let's do it. He was like $3 a hit, which is super cheap. And then my buddy Dan, I remember he did like 2 drops, and I was like, oh sweet, dude. He's like, all right, let me do another one. And then he went, and I did 2. And then he was like, I'm gonna do another one. And then he went and squirted it. And I went, holy shit, dude. I was like, well, I can't let you do that by yourself. And I went,
oh my God.
It. We gave it back to the guy, and he looked how much was left in it. He was like, dude, he was like, don't pay me. He was like, you didn't get this from me. And then he just walked away from us.
Wow.
And then within 10 minutes, dude, within 10, as it takes like 45 minutes to come on, 10 minutes, I'm talking about on another planet, dude. Another fucking planet. Just within 5 minutes of that, I lose Dan. Dan's running down the street like a lunatic.
When you say another planet, like, what are you experiencing?
Just extreme, like, I don't even remember most of the trip, but I remember I saw a friend and they got in their...
And this hippie guy comes up to me, and I don't remember his name, but
familiar with his face. He's like, thanks, man, for the fucking food all the time, you know? And he was high as fuck. He's like, you want a fucking trip tonight, man? And I was like,
maybe 18. Me and my buddy Dan Doherty, we got a medicine dropper, this fucking hippie kid, this fucking real big known hippie in my...
I was off for the next day or two, so I was like, sure, man. He's like, open your mouth. And stupidly I did, and he had an eyedropper, and he squirted a bunch of fucking acid in my mouth. Like, I could feel it. Like, and you're not supposed to. I could feel the shit running down the back of my throat. And I was like, dude, what the fuck? He's like, oh man, you're gonna be high. That was like 20 or 30 hits.
But this kid was like, dude, I have liquid acid in an eyedropper. We're like, oh no way, dude, let's do it. He was like $3 a hit, which is super cheap. And then my buddy Dan, I remember he did like 2 drops, and I was like, oh sweet, dude. He was like, all right, let me do another one. And then he went, and I did too. And then he was like, I want to do another one. And then he went and squirted it. And I went, holy shit, dude. I was like, well, I can't let you do that by yourself. And I went,
oh my God.
We gave it back to the guy, and he looked how much was left in it. He was like, dude, he was like, don't pay me. He was like, you didn't get this from me. And then he just walked away from us.
Wow. The acid, man. I got on the fucking bus, and it kicked in. You know, usually it takes like an hour to kick in and shit. No, this kicked in like 20 minutes. So I'm kind of fucked. And you know how...
And then within 10 minutes, dude, within 10, you know how acid takes like 45 minutes to come on? Mm-hmm. 10 minutes, I'm talking about on another planet, dude. Another fucking planet, just
like, and I was high for like 2 days. It kind of sucked. I started to get worried after a while because I was like, am I ever gonna not be high on acid? Like, you know.
And I tripped for 2 full days, 48 hours straight. Didn't.
Shit kind of breeze. You know, the colors are brighter. You know, you see tracers and shit. Not on 20 or 30 hits. You don't. You lose your fucking mind, man. Like I almost went blind. I was hallucinating so hard. I was seeing just shit like melt before my eyes. I couldn't read. My whole frame of vision was like constantly like shifting like that. I was like, what the fuck? And I missed my bus stop because I was high as fuck. I got off at the wrong bus stop, and I was only like maybe a mile away from my house, right? But I was so high I couldn't even fucking walk straight, man. I ended up sitting next to the canal, talking to myself until the sun came up. And I peaked for like 5 or 6 hours, man. Not like 1 or 2 hours, like with a couple hits. I peaked like at least 5 or 6 hours. I lost all concept of reality and time.
Within a lunatic.
When you say another planet, like, what are you experiencing?
Just extreme, like, I don't even remember most of the trip, but I remember.